for Launch Party 2023. We had some audio difficulties during the intermission. My apologies for that. That being said, we're going to be joined here by Tempest for a run of Cursed Crackers, For Whom the Bell Tolls. We did have a bid war for that, but before we get going, I would like to say that before the previous run, and I announced it several times during the intermission, but it wasn't heard, we have reached over $1,000 to save the children, which is super hype. Give a big round of applause for all those who've donated. Big round of applause for the Speed Docs crew, all of our tech, all of our hosts, all of our runners. Without all of you, it would not be possible. That being said, let's take a look and see who won the bid war real quick. All right, looks like Bonnie has won the bid war indeed. So with that, I'm going to pass it on over to Tempest, and we're going to get the run started. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for joining Airline Reaper. I will be your pilot, and behind my monitor is my wingman. And by that I mean my actual buddy here, but of course I'm not alone. I'm actually not just alone IRL. I'm not alone. I'm not alone, period. Ioto.
Before you start, pay low your speakers a bit, friend.
Oh. Speaker setting? Give me a sec. Like that, I guess. Okay. Sorry about that. Man, technical difficulties happening all over the place. Sorry. Let's do the spark notes here. Hi, me Tempest. Some know me as Steve. Welcome to Airline Reaper. Behind me is my wingman IRL in the back, and in the call with me is my commentator Ioto Core. He wrote the auto splitter of this game, which I will be using to time my personal time. And yeah, not too much said. Thank you all for donating to that bid war. I'm honestly surprised that we got Bonnie of all things, but honestly, this is kind of neat because I know she's a relatively new character with a more recent update that was given to this game. By the way, this is Cursed Crackers, For Whom the Bell Toils, a super rad game by Colorgrave. Shout out to them. But without further ado, let's get down to it, shall we? Alright, so time will begin once I've selected my character. So that'll be in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Alright, take it away, Ioto.
Alright, so this is
Wait, why spell?
This is going to be what we call the canon list run. There's a couple of variations of the any percent that we have.
Hold. Reset. I picked the wrong one.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Amazing.
Silly fingers, don't worry about it. Anyway,
Right.
What I was saying is there's a couple of variations of the any percent run that we do as runners. I personally also run the game, and Steve runs the game. There's a bunch of people who run the game. It's a lot of fun. Also very easy to get into. Highly recommend.
2, 1, go. There we go. That time. All right, cool. So,
Can you lower your
continue.
speakers just a little bit more? Thank you, Mike.
No problem.
Right, so for
But
the
yeah,
80% run, there is the true 80% run, which is just a complete the game as fast as you can. Then we have two variations that are more normal progression. We have a 80% no cactus, which is what we call the cheatless run, which allows you to skip levels and unlock a bunch of power-ups early on in the game. And then the cannonless run, which doesn't allow you to use the skip cannons, which allow you to skip levels in the game as well. So this is effectively the longest 80% run in the game. This is kind of what you would expect to see if you were playing the game for the first time. So we're just going to be going through all the levels by, in order. Now, Bonnie... that's fortunate. Bonnie is the new character who has a large number of changes compared to Belle. For starters, Belle is much more acrobatic. She's more about platforming, more about jumping off of enemies in order to damage them, and longer reach, and has more vertical movement than Bonnie on her normal movement. Bonnie, on the other hand, is much more combat focused. Her double jump is kind of a attack at the same time. It turns her into an invincible sort of death whirlwind, I guess you could say. And it also lets her bounce off enemies multiple times in a row. She also gets access to a wall jump, which Belle does not, unfortunately. which would be really, really handy for playing as Belle, but, we just have to deal with it.
So one of the big things about Bonnie, too, that makes her very mobile and much faster than Belle is that in the main game itself, you have these collectibles called Ardell Roses, which need to be gotten, at least 30 of them in order to progress to the final world of the game. In Bonnie's case, that's completely foregone, so no need to do any collectathons whatsoever, which is especially nice because she can do some really ridiculous stuff. This is the simple Bonnie category, so something we recently did was we sort of split things up between Belle and Bonnie, as well as certain things they can do. In Bonnie's case, it's what we call Riot Mode, which her scythe is the only item that she can get in the game. So she can only carry her scythe, she can't get any other sort of items no matter what. And to the credit of that, she has the double jump because of that, but also Riot Mode itself is what utilizes this magic that I'm collecting right now. And the reason that's important is because I need at least 150 to activate this transformation, which not only prevents her from taking damage, but at the cost of magic instead. It's also really handy to scrap bosses quite a bit. Now, because Kenless Bonnie is very relatively new, there's a whole lot of stuff that in future runs I can only assure you will look a lot smoother than here, so things are going to look pretty experimental as far as things can tell. But other than that, it's basically the full game as you all would know it. No need to do awkward things to cheese stuff otherwise, and you get to see a lot of victory dancing, which is really cool. Bonnie also has her own little victory theme, which is different from that of Belle's. So it's nice little touches like these that set the two apart quite a lot, and in a really cool way possible. I would also like to mention that Bonnie is unlockable as of the version 1.2 update, which in prior versions of the game, she was playable, but by a very special thing we called Bonnie Vania, which at this point is now Bonnie Mania. It's a particular mode that requires a bunch of fetch quests to be done of particular items throughout a lot of different stages, and once you collect all of those, particularly the lore tomes, the rune relic pieces, and I'm pretty sure there's got to be some rose collecting involved as well, because there's other side quests just like this one in order to get the portal that you need to working. Once all of those are complete and you've completed the special Bonnie mode for the first time, she then becomes fully playable and selectable on a new file screen.
Yeah, you may also notice there's a couple awkward jumps. For example, a little bit ago, Steve was kind of stuck on the ropes for a minute trying to jump up through a gap. That is, again, due to Bonnie's nature as a more combat-focused character as opposed to Belle, who's more of an acrobat. She's an acrobat in the game, but she's also more acrobatic-focused in terms of gameplay. Bonnie has a significantly reduced jump ability. She has the ability to move faster, and when she does her sort of slide jump thing, it actually kills enemies. She can just power right through them. But
something that not even Belle has.
Yeah, but unfortunately that also comes at the cost of very, very reduced vertical mobility, which is a huge hindrance actually in certain levels. Like, she has some trade-offs that make her much stronger. Now, this is also the first boss in the game. He is an interesting fight in Bonnie's case, because in Belle's instance, those arrows on the side indicate that you can go off one side and come back the other side. It's basically sort of like a rotary room. But in this case, because Bonnie... Well, when you're playing as Belle, you have the ability to throw Chime, which is her bell-shaped companion. Belle has a bell-shaped companion. Don't worry about it. Chime can chuck it across this stage and keeps going until he hits something, which means that he'll wrap around and hit that enemy from behind, which is not something Bonnie can do as her scythe is much lower range. So you have to finagle it a little bit and finesse it so it actually returns to her backwards across the screen. It's a very interesting little sort of twist on the combat style.
Right. Now this is stage 4. In the first 4 worlds of the main game itself, this would normally be where we come across a character named Claire, who is a baker that can make these nifty little concoctions that allow Chime, the Belle companion of Belle herself, to transform. But because we are Bonnie, the game actually has it where we can't use those, but we can use her move kit to circumvent that in a way. For instance, the wall jump was exactly what helped me get through in this case.
Yeah, this particular mode of playing through the game is also really interesting because there's a lot of added dialogue that exists only for when you're playing as Bonnie. It's pretty funny.
Color Grave puts a lot of detail into the games they do, and they're very active about updating them as well. This is actually their second released title, and both are currently only available on Steam, which is a shame, but I can understand that because I understand that when you try to update games, it can take a bit of a process in order to then apply to all released versions. So I imagine that if there's ever going to be a console version, which I know is not in the cards yet, I would imagine that they would want everything to be done in the PC version first, because this is indeed where it's at. And the best part too is that there are free demos that let you play both this and Prodigal, and if you decide to get the game itself, the data of your file from the demo will carry over, which is really sweet.
Yeah, and if you want to try speedrunning, I can highly recommend trying the speedrun for the Curse Crackers demo. Prior to the game's launch, we actually had a demo category for that, which still exists. Don't get me wrong, it's still there. We just don't do it anymore because we usually just play the full game. But it is straight up just the first couple levels of the game in there in full. Well, not in full. I think there's like a couple small secret things that aren't there, but
yeah,
those aren't really relevant to the demo.
That is a good point, though. I did see someone mention that, yes, Prodigal and I think both Curse Crackers, they are also available on PC if you have itch.io. So if you wish to get them through that, then yeah, you're obviously more than welcome to do so. It's perfectly viable that way, too.
Still fantastic games either way. Highly recommend picking them up if you are a big fan of either sort of old school style platformers with an excellent sense of flow to them and puzzle Zelda kind of adventures.
Very much so. Oh wow, she sings. I forgot about that. Yeah, so little stage differences like these, or fight differences like these. In Belle's case, it's a guitar. In Bonnie's case, it's a microphone. That's beautiful. It's also ironic, too, because technically these mini-bosses, any skeleton bosses that we're fighting, those are her minions. We're technically fighting against her own cronies.
Don't worry about it. It probably makes perfect sense in the lore.
Now, despite Bonnie not having a super high jump height, the nice thing is that, like with Belle, you can hold down, and you will be able to do a higher jump when you jump. So technically that does apply to Bonnie as well. But in the case of what she does, it's not necessarily as high soaring as per se Belle's. So as you can probably tell, there are a lot of things about the two of these characters that to each their own. It's all a matter of what kind of playstyle you prefer the most. But in terms of Belle's, you're more than likely going to get used to that the most, because if you do get this game, you actually do have to play as her. Like there's because like I said, Bonnie is unlockable. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it is still a fun playstyle. Like, don't go in there assuming that Bonnie, just because she's unlockable, is the best playstyle in the game or whatever. Like, Belle is a lot of fun to play around with.
Yeah, absolutely, and to each their own.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that the game's also designed for Belle, so.
Righto. So, there are, for those curious, a total of 5 main worlds. And there are also actually hidden worlds as well. Some of these are done, a couple, or maybe like 1 or 2 of these are done through some side quest meetings. But what you're going to see me do for stage 2 is I'm actually going to unlock the way to one of these. Now, I'm particularly talking about what are known as the Hollows. The Hollows are these sort of challenge areas. They're like same but not exactly versions of.
They're the same theme as the above world versions, but they are significantly more difficult and are much like tighter focus on platforming and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly that. So in order to unlock those, there is a special doorway which replaces the goal. Well, not replaces per se. yeah, you know, I love the fact that the scythe does so much faster pushing, by the way. That's so smooth.
Oh yeah, that's so useful.
Oh, Bonnie has it really good and all that jazz. So, you're probably wondering what Bonnie's deal is anyway. Well, in the lore of the game, she's what's known as a Hearthen, which is basically a humanoid race with animal traits, usually bunnies for the most part, or like in some cases foxes and, you know, other stuff like that. And these folks... Oh yeah, there are wolves. Oops. What I was trying to do there was, obviously you can't do the scythe jump. You can't do the scythe jump and then cling to a wall, so instead you have to do a scythe cancel, as I like to call it.
Yeah, it's possible, it's just tricky and the timing is weird.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that, just like that, what I did there. Yeah. Because, yeah, it can take a little getting used to, but still, all the same, really cool stuff. There's also another nice little trick I can do, which actually I haven't showcased yet, but I will next time I find a good opportunity for it. It's what I like to call a height extension jump, if you will. Hold on a sec. Yeah, she shreds through that guy. That boss right there is normally a bit of a pain in the butt for Belle, but no, Bonnie is truly the boss of this thing, and she is not afraid to show it.
Yeah, there's a lot of bosses, because all these bosses, again, are designed for Belle to face off, right? They're all intended for somebody who's acrobatic, but generally speaking, can't take direct combat. Bonnie,
right,
by virtue of having an actual weapon, is able to kind of just decimate a bunch of those encounters. There's a couple she has struggles with, of course, but some of those fights she just can just power right through. And then you've got Riot mode for the first time as well.
Yeah, so that was to replace another Claire concoction, which was called the Angel Donut, which allows Chime to sprout wings and basically become winged Yoshi, for lack of a better comparison. So in that case, Riot mode was absolutely the faster way of trying to get me across that chasm where, no surprise there, the lava is instant kill, so the first time I touch it, or any time I touch it, that'll be insta death. Not the most fun thing to do.
Yeah, normally when you're playing through that level, whenever there's a Claire level, you always have to spend a little bit of time making a small detour to pick up whatever ingredient she has for that level, which usually means that on your subsequent adventures through that level, you don't actually have to deal with those anymore, because she'll already have unlocked that stuff. All the upgrades you make on your way through the game will remain upgraded. They don't, force you to re-travel through the entire level to get the stuff again.
Right. So at this moment, I think if for those that may have not noticed, one of the big challenges of this game is that Color Grave essentially made this platformer to be one that challenges the player to be very mindful of health management, because yeah, there are no health refills in this game whatsoever, aside from, well, the checkpoints. Oops. So whenever you pass by a checkpoint, that's 1 point back to you. But of course you automatically die if the third point goes out, and yeah, it's back to the last checkpoint you go.
Yeah, it really varies. This level is particularly bad, and then there's one in the next zone, which is also really bad, about like the first checkpoint being very deep in. But generally speaking, they're all pretty fair, so that you aren't going to go like too far and die without hitting a checkpoint, apart from, messing up terribly.
Okay. Ah, man. Oh, that's... Shoot, that's right. They have to do the slam attack, don't they? That's probably it. Yeah, this guy follows a bit of a classic boss trope. You're all probably familiar with the idea of how there are bosses with giant hands, right? Well, this guy, you gotta beat the hands and then open the way forward, or rather to open the way. Okay, no, there we go. So you gotta hit the crystals, basically. And yeah, for whatever reason, the hitbox will not will not recognize it if it's coming from like behind the hand. If it's if it's coming from in front of the hand, rather. It has to come from behind the hand for some reason. Don't know if that was intended, but
it may just be sort of a leftover from how you have to deal with it as Belle.
More than likely, because I imagine that the properties of the scythe are not that far a cry from how chime works. But yeah, that was basically the boss. Instead of having to hit it 3 times, you have to go through a little puzzle. I like to compare that to a boss from the second world of Drawn to Life for Nintendo DS. It's basically that sort of fight.
And since you unlock the hollow, I'll also mention that each of the hollows has an advanced version of the boss at the same points. Each hollow is also 5 levels with a boss on 3 and 5, just like in the overworld. And the hollow version of that boss is a tremendous pain.
Yeah. I would know, having gone through all those just to make it all the way to here.
Yes. That was one of the things I did last. I got every single one of the medals for every level except for like that one, because that level, completing it without getting hit, was a problem.
Yeah, I've done damageless level run-throughs, but I don't know. Do they give medals or no?
Depends. That's how you get the long shot for bosses.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. Because for whatever it's worth, the whole... there's this really cool item that Belle can get, like, whenever you beat the game at 100%. But there's a lot to do. Make no mistake, there is a lot.
Yeah, if you want to, if you just want to go through the game once and sort of enjoy the story, it is not that long. I'd say maybe 8 hours or so, something like that.
Yeah.
If you want to dig deep, this game has a lot of content in it, and I mean a lot. Their previous game, Prodigal, also had an intense amount of content. I think at one point I described it as the best 12-hour game I spent 60 hours in. Something like that. This game is very much on the same level.
Yeah, no, make no mistake. Despite how plentiful the content is and continues to get with each waking update, all for the better, honestly. It just adds way more replayability and value to what is already a fantastic game.
And it just keeps getting updated. It's really fantastic.
Very much so.
I think Bonnie came about in the same update that the various relics also got upgraded.
Yes, that sounds about right, because one of the things that made Belle's any percent route super fast was an item called the Graven Mask, which in that case is an item that, how that works particularly, it normally gives you a double jump, but in the latest update, it now serves a secondary purpose where it can grant you brief invincibility.
Oh, by the way, this guy's a Prodigal reference. You should play Prodigal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That I never knew.
Yeah, Giant Frog that sits barrels is the second boss, I want to say. Yeah, he's the second boss, because the first boss is the Vulture.
Which, actually, that is a good point to bring up. So, Curse Crackers and Prodigal, same world. They share the same setting. It's obviously different perspectives, different points of the story overall, but if you see any familiar characters that make you think, hey, I remember them from Prodigal, then yeah, chances are that's exactly it. Also, hi Tedra, bye Tedra.
Don't worry about it. We'll see her again soon enough.
Yeah. That was just a bratty Cyclops child that was trying to mock us, but joke's on her. Ooh, that's right. So, let's see here. I believe the blocks... Yeah, there they are. So, in some cases of the Claire levels, particularly 2 levels, Color Grave changed the level design a little bit to add these scythe icon blocks, which obviously means it gives the impression that only Bonnie's scythe can carve through them. And these were just mainly done to give her a way out, because yet again, that was another would-be recipe section that would have required a special chime ability in order to get through it, but here we don't have to worry. So yeah, all's pretty good there so far. This has been really smooth, all things considered. And I mean, as to be expected with Bonnie, because again, without the need to worry about collecting things, that just adds to the real speed values she has overall, you know?
Yeah.
Because her any percent beatable within under 5 minutes.
Wow. Okay. Was it actually down to that?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure the world record of Bonnie's any percent is it's got to be under 3 minutes, if anything. Yeah, it's nuts, and I'm pretty sure that would be Pragma Twice's. I'll have to double check. Oh dang it! No, I almost had her. This is a very kindly gardener skeleton, but she's also kind of a bit of a pain, because the only way to hurt her is to drop her on the spikes. Unfortunate, but you know, I made it work.
Yeah, it's a lot of the bosses in this game are ones that if you know what you're doing against them, you can pretty much just clean house and just go right through them. But some of them, if you know what you're doing but you mess up a little bit, it's just going to take you like a couple more cycles to get through for whatever reason.
Yeah.
For example, on that one, that required waiting for the boss to actually get into a position where it could be hit by the spikes on the ground, which was awkward. Oh yes, this level is also, well, not this level, this zone I should say, is also one of the ones where the thing I mentioned before about long checkpoints or long distances between the first checkpoint. This is one of the zones where that sort of comes into play. Not this world in particular, I think it's the second world that does it.
Potentially. It's hard for me to remember all the time, but it sounds about right.
Yeah, I remember more when I'm actually in it and going, oh god, it's not this checkpoint.
In case you were wondering about these little high jumps I'm doing, by the way, that's a special trick that I think I was trying to explain a little earlier.
You mentioned you were going to bring it up.
Yeah, I was. It was going to be... Yeah, no, I don't need to remember when, but yeah. What I'm doing for that is I'm activating the scythe jump just as I'm pressing the wall jump button. So basically, it's sort of a slide between jump and special scythe jump, so to speak. And if you time it just right, it gives you some really gnarly vertical height for sure.
Yeah,
it's a principle that's very similar to something that Belle can do. Whoops, well, I'm not getting that magic anytime soon.
Yeah, there's a lot of very similar movement tricks that we can pull off all throughout the game. It's a lot of fun because there's so much stuff that you can do to just improve your movement. Just starting off with the basics, you have the ability to run, jump, and then when you sort of get into it, you go, okay, there's also a high jump, and then there's a long jump. And then when you get into it further, it's like, oh, I can do like a catapult to launch myself further. I can do weird momentum tricks using sort of exploits with specific items. There's a bunch of weird movement tech I can do using the new relic stuff. There's a whole load of options. And while we have more or less sort of mapped out a bunch of them prior to this point, the new artifact updates have changed things around so that we're now sort of questioning like, okay, so apart from the obvious best item, which is the thing you get from beating the game 100%, there's a lot of potential options for things that might give even better boosts, or armor that will give you a much better movement rate through a level because it just lets you plow through enemies, that sort of thing.
That was really solid movement there, what the heck. Very nice. And that's one of the reasons why I've grown to really love Bonnie the more I get used to her.
Yeah, Bonnie is a character I have not really tried much apart from doing her alternate mode, but which is really fun, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does look like she'd be fun to play around with at some point in the future. I need to get
I did mention what Bonnie was, but I didn't mention who she is. So, Bonnie is a necromancer who, this scythe that she's wielding, she actually stole from a bit of a graveyard, and yeah, some people are not too happy about that. But as if that wasn't enough, she's also, she and Belle were former friends, technically still are, but Bonnie, let's just say Bonnie is to Vegeta while Belle is to Goku. They have that sort of rivalry going for them. And she just so happens to decide to one day go ahead and suddenly sneak in on Belle's date with a official knight, the royal guard, the law enforcement of this entire world, and just up and kidnaps him. And now, not only is the main plot of Belle's story to try and save him and knock some sense into her, but now Bonnie's also officially a wanted criminal. And yeah, let's just say she's kind of a very daring individual, but man, when you get to see her good side, you'll probably grow to like her just as much as I do.
And as much as that one NPC who demands that you bring best girl to her.
Oh, that is true. I would love to explain more on that one, but I think that's something you all should try for yourselves for sure.
All right, so this is my personal least favorite fight in the game. How would you play some Hong?
That was some really good patterns right there. I didn't even have to do anything.
You got lucky. So
wow.
Like most bosses, this follows a 3-hit pattern, but yeah, I don't like that boss at all because the patterns are random. Most of the boss patterns are, like pseudo-random. You can sort of bait things out or fit your movement patterns around certain attacks, that sort of thing. That one is basically random between one of 3 patterns every time he attacks, which is straightforward, left, and right.
Ooh, I might need the key for that.
You didn't grab the key.
Yeah, I totally blanked out. Whoops. Oh, actually, that's not too bad though, because then I just get warped back to here. Yeah, that was perfect. Oh wait, no, I gotta get the key. Got Bonnie, thank you. All right, cool.
So that boss in particular is a pain because of the RNG patterns, which are more difficult later on when the ball starts moving faster, and with Belle you need to destroy the blocks in order to get the ball to hit the enemy, and it's a whole thing. There's another boss later on who's even more RNG, and everyone loves her. That was a lie. Nobody loves her. Nobody likes her. Either one of the bosses there have RNG later. Yeah,
not to mention she's an actual jerk herself. Unfortunate to say. But yeah, that little lava death was kind of embarrassing there. I was originally going to go into riot mode, but the problem is the transformation animation has its own gravity still, so you can still fall into the lava and you'll die for it. That's happened to me one other time in a marathon though, so it certainly wouldn't be the that's not happened before moment, but needless to say, it's all the more humiliating.
Yeah, I don't remember what the exact properties that was. I think there's a weird momentum transfer that goes on when you go into riot mode, because I know it sort of floats you up if you're not falling down, but I don't remember the exact details.
That right there was the final added exit to account for what was the final of the Claire ingredient stages, and now from this point on it's just straight shooting. Here we have Beaton, and I just dunk him to the bottom left, and he's already gone because guess what? While you're supposed to hit him into the spikes to deal damage 3 times, apparently they just sort of left in a death pit. Not sure if that was meant for debug purposes, but yeah, it's kind bonnie.
No, and don't worry about it. Death pits work on both people. It's fine.
That's fair. True. So, well, there's a death there. Oh well. So, this is normally where you're fighting Bonnie as Belle, right? But since I'm already playing as Bonnie, they decided to throw in a Faker situation. So I found you, Faker. And yeah, Ioto, explain this fight if you could, please.
All right, so the basic pattern behind this fight is you have to, as Belle, for example, you'd have to destroy these blocks and then jump on Bonnie's head in order to damage her. She has more health than the other bosses, which makes this a much more difficult fight. And then as Bonnie, you still have to do the same thing. The problem is that you don't have the ability to jump on her head normally, so you have to use the scythe spin attack in order to get on there. With the advantage, however, that you can just destroy the, I don't even know what you call those things that are circling around her.
Yeah, they're just like smiley spiky orbs. Not even sure if they're supposed to be like necromancy or whatever, but yeah.
They're much easier to destroy as Bonnie, which is honestly a major hassle for Belle. Playing as Belle, they are the biggest thing that's killed me every single time I've attempted her fight. All right,
Well, that was just silly.
Now we're on the moon.
We are in space! Sorry for that botched Tim Curry impression.
So over the course of the normal story, what happens at this point is after defeating Bonnie as Belle, you sort of reconcile with her a little bit, and you are given the sort of like, hey, we're gonna be friends now, and then she gets kidnapped by that one-eyed gremlin child and the harpy that we also saw before in the level...
The ruins, yeah.
Level what's that, 2-5?
2-5, yes.
They're
But
both...
they're
both the final boss for this zone, and we're just gonna take care of both of them as we go through this level.
Yeah, they kind of want to wreck shop on the living surface. This is This is actually indeed outer space, by the way. So like, this is an entirely different civilization, and yet they just seem to have it out for us. And yeah, I'm not all for that. With that in mind, though, yeah, this whole fight is just her jumping into a box. She's doing that little Yu-Gi-Oh! Top hat spell card thingamajig, and no, not much else to it. I just gotta find the real her. One more hit, she'll be down. And as we go into the second space level, I think it's high time that I go ahead and give the floor to our wonderful host. So Kefka, take it away, good sir.
All right, so I'd like to take a moment to plug some incentives that we have coming up. Later at the end of the night, we have Resident Evil 4 Remake, and we have a bid war for a lot of different costumes for Leon, and I'm going to go ahead and give my shameless plug to the villain costume for that second run, because let me tell you, that is a humdinger and a half right there. That being said, we do have another incentive coming up, though, that I would really love to meet, and it is for Ravenlock. It is to pet and dress the dog, and we're very close to meeting that incentive, so definitely be getting some donations in, because petting and dressing a dog, you gotta admit, that's pretty hype. Like, it doesn't get more hype than that. We like dogs. We like all of our dogs and cats here.
Absolutely. Very much agree. My family just so happens to have a very, very wonderful dog. My wingman in the back can absolutely agree with me there. This Doge is the very light of our lives, brings us many, many smiles. I would love to see this dog for that run get pet. And yeah, no, absolutely. It's all for a great cause too, so please be sure to get your donos in. And as I always like to say, whenever I'm the one that encourages folks to just do whatever they can, no matter what, every donation counts, no matter how big or small. It's always appreciated.
Absolutely. And again, we are raising money for Save the Children. We have currently raised over $1,000 thanks to everybody's efforts and all those involved. So just keep them coming in, and we got more great runs.
Thank you so much, Kefka. Appreciate it. And with that in mind, we are on the final 3 levels of the game, so we are very much nearing the end, and it's going to be quite a time. Whoop, that's not where I wanted to go.
Yeah. So one thing you might notice is there's this giant rock in space that wasn't there before. In the course of the main game, Lear and Tedra, who are the Harpy and the Gremlin Cyclops child, effectively, call down this meteor in order to wipe out the moon and everything on the planet below. In this instance, we don't really have that cutscene, so there's just a meteor there now. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Nothing will happen.
Doop. Yeah, that one's a little bit of a harder variant. But at this rate, I'm going to have more than enough... Oh, I'm going backwards. It's easy to backtrack, but that's just because the game lets you, which is nice. Especially when you're trying to look for something you might have missed.
Yeah, there's a lot of secrets hidden throughout the games. In every single level, there is a secret... what's the best way to describe it? A target room, which we actually came across just before in this room. There's the secret target room. There is a Oath Blade, which is a secret sword, and then there's a lore tome. And then there's also other secret collectibles across various levels, which you can find. So there's a lot of stuff to dig into. There's a lot of stuff to search out. There's hidden entrances to the hollows. There's occasional hidden NPCs, that sort of thing.
Shout out to Zeal. All my homies love Zeal.
So Zeal is there because over the course of the main story of the game, Chime gets knocked out of Belle's grasp, and as Chime is part of your movement kit, that locks away a great deal of your vertical movement. Bonnie doesn't have that issue because Bonnie can just jump up the side of a wall. But because Chime was part of what helped Belle, go vertically, Zeal exists. And basically, Zeal acts as a location-specific vertical boost. He'll just, if you jump next to him, he'll just boost you right up into the air and send you flying into the sky. Very handy.
Which, yeah, you just demonstrated, which he demonstrated just like that. So he'll still do it for Bonnie no matter what.
He's very chill.
One final stage. This is where the rubber hits the road. So because I've been collecting so much magic, Riot Mode is as important as ever. So this is Liadra, and this is the fusion between Tidra and Lear. They did a little wacky little fusion dance, except it wasn't the dance, it was some magic process or whatever. Now this boss is a little harder to manage as Bonnie without Riot Mode, and the reason for that is because where you're normally using Bonnie's scythe as Belle, while as Belle, it has an entirely different property, which I'm actually led to believe there's a good story reason for this. But basically how it would work is you can constantly deal damage to her as long as Belle is 1 point less from full health at least, which is a really funky but super cool little detail right there. Here, on the other hand, trying to continuously strike Liadra with Riot Mode, that's the best way to handle it. And we are already at Phase 3, so we are going to once more cheese this thing, and hopefully no more bad RNG attacks. Oh, there's one right there. But time will be on the first frame that the text box appears, which is now.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Yes. And yeah, that was well underestimate. I know that you all saw my estimate was like 1 hour. Well, guess what? That was just in case things got really wacky. Honestly, it's probably for the better that they didn't, because now that puts us quite on back on schedule and all that good jazz. So yeah, I'd say that worked out.
Yeah, I was about to say, you completely smashed the estimate. Big GG on that.
Yeah, as if that wasn't enough, what if I told you that was my first fully recorded run of Bonnie's Candleless Mode, which technically therefore makes it a PB?
Oh, everybody loves a marathon PB. That's super hype.
So I have put a little bit of practice. I do technically run Bonnie's No Cactus mode, and I was also putting in a bit of practice into some of the other stuff as well. And well, let's just say that I was more than ready for today's run, sure, but yeah, no. Yeah, surprise. Seriously though, this is such a really cool, absolutely fun game to showcase, and I'm always pleased to get the opportunity to showcase it, especially with these new moves. Oh, by the way, this ending cutscene is totally Belle's. It's the same between her and Bonnie, which makes sense. But yeah, No, thank you so much to Speed Docs for having me. I know that I was originally scheduled for the first date of launch party before things had to change up a little bit, but I'm glad we were able to reaccustom things and make it work out in the end. And I know that they said that if I was still available, I could. So thank you guys so much for considering me all the same. This game is really cool, and again, major shout out to Colorgrave. If you'd like to learn the speed run, we have the official Colorgrave Discord, which you can check out the link for in this leaderboard on SRC, and there is a special topic for it and Prodigal, and there are a lot of new speedrunners. We recently had the amazing Metroid Crime submit her first leaderboard runs, and it's really fun game. Developers really love all aspects of the things that their games have brought on, and I couldn't be any happier. This has easily become one of my favorite indie games to run, without a doubt. Ioto, thank you so much for joining me. As always, you are a fantastic commentator, and I couldn't have anyone better for the job. Where can these wonderful people find you?
Well, you can find me over on Twitter at IotoCorp. You can find me on Twitch at IotoCorp. You can find me on YouTube and basically every social media website that exists. I've got a link on my Twitter, which just links to everything. So just check me out there. But more importantly, definitely check out this game. It's available on Steam, it's available on itch.io, and it has a free demo, which, as we mentioned before, covers the first 5 levels of this game, and we do have a speedrun category for it. It's a lot of fun, it's incredibly easy to learn and get into. It's personally how I started speedrunning the game. So just go check that out, and it's just a lot of fun to go through the first 5 levels and sort of get into the groove and feel the flow as you go through those levels.
Thank you so much to Speed Doc's crew for bringing me back. It was fun to come back. For those that don't know, I previously did last year's Speed Docs-a-thon, and I've always wanted to do Launch Party. I always forgot to get a submission in before they closed, so glad I could finally fix that. If you guys would like to follow me, I'm TempestMask1000 here on Twitch and YouTube, and my Twitter at It'sTempestSteve, where I will post any streaming updates if I ever have the opportunity to do one. Not much that needs to be said otherwise, and with that in mind, I hope to see you all again very soon. Keep on raising money, folks. We have a lot of great things to do for so many lives, and that's always what makes me love being a speedrunner. So until next time, ciao, Michi.
All right, fantastic run, Tempest. I'd like to also thank Speed Docs. This is my first time hosting for a marathon, and despite some tech issues during the intermission, I think it went really well. So I'd like to, give a big shout out to Speed Docs and a thanks for them for doing that. We had a great run by Tempest, a great run by Linkemeister. But with that, coming up next, we have Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, and for those of you who haven't seen that run, it's excellent. It's going to be ran by none other than Comma Crimson. Thank you all, and
Hello everyone, this is Dayman. We are going to put the finishing touches on getting this next run set up for you, and then we will have that coming up very shortly, so stay tuned. We are just a few dollars away from having the Pet and Dress the Dog incentive met for Ravenlock. We've got about an hour and a half left on that, and we are just $8 shy. We're at $242 out of $250 for that. So if you would like to get your contributions in, we would greatly appreciate it, and we can pet and dress that dog. Additionally, for Curse Crackers, we currently have Bonnie sitting at $38 and Belle sitting at $29. And just to open now, we have opportunity to choose Leon's outfit for Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 4 Remake. We have the normal outfit, the police outfit, noir outfit, sheriff outfit for 2. Also opportunities for the pinstripe, villain, and romantic outfits for Resident Evil 4 Remake later on this evening. So hang tight. Couple minutes, we'll be right back and be able to get you our next run.
Can be done with very little. The best investment we can make is in children. To work with human beings from the very beginning of their life.
We work in far corner of the world. We provide training and chance for children to grow up healthy.
We work in far-flung, isolated rural areas. We can build small-scale projects with a few families and in the community in general, and then they can have impact on the life of thousands and sometimes millions of children in other places.
I believe it's very important to work with children in the early years. You help them to grow into their full potential.
Investing in children's lives is investing in the future.
We respond to any emergency of scale anywhere in the world. We're unique in that we are specifically looking out for the welfare of children in an emergency. And sometimes those needs are very different than the needs of adults and the rest of the community.
It's not just about financial resources that help children, advocacy and policy change. That can affect millions of kids' lives. That's why the work of Save the Children is so important. We're there in the communities, working with community members to make sure that kids get an education, they have access to health care, to make sure they're protected from harm.
The world is facing many challenges. We often wonder, what's the best we can do to heal the world, to make a better future for mankind? The future of the human race is really in their hands.